That said, if you guys want to contribute to our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job you're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. So, for this edition of the Reality Bank, let's talk about cancel culture. And of course, we have Johan here with us. It's great to have you back on the show.
Good to be back. It's been a really long time, huh, since we both have
Yeah,
done
very, very long
some
time.
live show together. So yeah, it's good to. It's really good to be back. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's jump right into it. Now, my very first question is now, what is the difference between calling someone out and canceling them?
I think here's the thing. Both the terms I think had the same meaning initially, but I think
Hmm.
it's just the way things have turned out to become what it is. I think that's why there are two definitions for it. I
Yeah,
think there is with us the intent for of a cancel culture calling someone out is actually pretty same. It is to be held accountable, but
yeah,
I think that, but the thing is how it's handled. I think that is where it somewhat becomes a problem, I feel, for a lot of people. I don't know why the moment you say cancel culture, I feel like it somewhat becomes a negative term for people. When
hmm,
you say the word cancel culture, it's just the what how negatively cancel culture has ruined people's life. I think those are the things that you know that's somewhat branded for. When you say cancel culture, it ends up becoming, as someone ruining a person's life.
yeah,
Unfortunately, that's what the image of cancel culture has become. Calling someone out is as simple as it sounds. When it's not, it's more than the person, it's about the person's behavior. It's about the actions the person has done. It is the person is calling out, what they have done, like the mistakes that they have done. And
hmm,
it is those type of problems that that is a problematic with for of a person, that has not been spoken about. One person was bold enough to say, this is the problem with this with someone,
yeah,
and that is calling out someone. Cancel culture is also, was the same thing, but I think because of social media became like this, some sort of unlimited fuel that multiple people's voices ended up coming together. And I think that's where it somewhat blurred the line between calling someone out. I think it ended up becoming almost socially, making a person, putting a person to such level that socially they're not going to be acceptable. It somewhat led to that sort
yeah,
of a point. And the sad part in cancel culture that I've seen is, a person can achieve everything, but one small mistake that they'll make, they will point that out, and they will really end up, that can end up ruining a person's life. That's why celebrities are so cautious. They censor a lot of things they say. They're so careful with the words they say, because it's
yeah,
because it's scary how, one small comment they make, how people will end up having such a negative sort of they'll really talk as negative comments as you can imagine to this person. That is why people end up keeping quiet and not really, they don't say, they are very cautious with what they say and speak because of that. And I think I think social media is the thing that has differentiated between calling someone out and a cancel culture, I feel. And the sad part is, I feel like, social media has somewhat stained, what cancel culture is. And the
yeah,
thing is, if you see cancel culture, it has done good things as well. There are so many movements that have started, and social media has played a huge role in it, and that is cancel culture in the end of the day. That has, the voice of the unheard was. And there are
mm,
so many movements like this that we can that have happened. I mean, the Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement, social media played a huge
mm,
role in both those movements. So I think that way it has benefited. But I think when you have that sort of an ability of make create cancel culture, if it was like a voice for the unheard, and what sort of a problems that that sometimes there might be in a person, and putting that on, pointing that out, and calling that out, and being held accountable and justice, that was the whole point. That is boiled down to picking a person, and putting that person so down socially that next time anything they do, any sort of content they put out, or anything that they do, like the
mm,
first thing that comes to people's mind is that the certain reason they got cancelled for. And I think that
Exactly.
is the sad part.
Yeah. Moving on to the next question. Now, does cancel culture, silence important conversations or create space for, better voices?
I think when it's interesting when you ask this question, because the moment when this question was I when I read the question, the first thing that came to my mind was really freedom of
Mm.
speech,
Yeah.
because that's what freedom of speech really is. I feel like the thing is, like, even if you do not agree with a certain person, but if you wholeheartedly believe that this person still has the right to say what they want, that is freedom of speech, right?
Mhm.
It's not just the voices that you agree to that you're going to stand for. Despite not agreeing with the person, you still are going to say, I this person can say what they want, because it is their it is their
Exactly.
choice. That is freedom of speech, right? And I think it's, if you don't give that voice to the person you don't agree to, it becomes hypocritical, because if no one hears your voice, you're going to be they might be complaining about it, that nobody's going to listen to me, I'm saying is what I'm saying is not being heard. And but the thing is, it's funny that they end up doing the same thing for a person they don't agree to,
Yeah.
and I think that's where freedom of speech somewhat plays such a massive role in cancel culture today, I feel, because
Mm.
uh, the thing is, it somewhat blurs the line, between between good and what the person is saying towards what it eventually ends up becoming. Because
Mm.
I feel like, one small we have seen celebrities who have been widely respected, but post covid, at least from what I've seen, they have made like small mistakes, that has
Exactly.
completely ruined and tarnished their image and legacy. And it's
Mhm.
pretty, yeah, and I honestly never thought these people's career will ever go down, irrespective of how what they are. And it is quite surprising to to see that. And I think I said that earlier, it is very a- algorithm really loves hatred. That is the sad part, like
True.
when algorithm really loves that, part where people point out and say something they don't like about about a person. And the thing is, I've seen celebrity like pages where the negative comments are a lot more than the positive comments. I've seen
Mhm.
that multiple times. And I think that's where it becomes the problem, no matter what people end up doing or end up putting out. I think the sad part is, because it's a collective voice, right? Social media and the comments and
Yeah.
everything that they say. I think you know because okay, let's just take nepotism for example.
Mm.
It is, I mean, we're not gonna get into detail and talk about it much, but the whole problem with nepotism is, yes, there is privilege that they have had,
Yeah.
that they have not, that you can't deny. But then at the same time, there is talent that they have, you can't deny at the same time as well.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of there are a lot of people who have benefited from nepotism, but then talent has carried them to where they are today at the same time. But
Mhm.
the sad part is, no matter what great work they an actor can do in a movie, they'll end up being labeled as this nepotism kid, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think and I think I've seen so many situations where there is a certain movie that is talking about a completely different and an important topic, a very very
Mm.
important topic, but there can be some scene that someone may not have agreed to, so they
Yeah.
may not have liked, and they will pinpoint at that one certain scene and make a huge issue
Deal
about
out
it.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, big deal out of it. And that is the sad part, because here you have a movie that's talking about such a large issue, but
Mm.
then you have pinpointed out something that was quite unnecessary, I feel. So
Yeah.
I think and I think that's the sad part, and that is uh, because of certain things like this, a lot of people end up censoring themselves, that is the thing.
Mm.
So a lot of people don't really say what they want, because of the fear of what the internet might and social media might do to them. A lot of
Mm.
comedians also have openly spoken about them, that they go little bit, politically, they go a little political, they get really, targeted and cancelled, and it's quite crazy what happens to people, you know. So I
Yeah.
think it because there's like a collective voice that comes on social media when it comes to canceling. I think it is very scary, and you know, it is very easy for everyone, for a person to be hated, you know, more than a person to be loved. You know, it takes a many years for someone, you know, for the whole world to fall, you know, to love you, but it takes
Yeah.
like less than a second for them to completely be hated. And I think that is
Exactly.
the sad part in you know, in cancel culture. Sometimes I
Mm.
feel like, you know, some important topics that people will talk about, they'll completely diverge it, and you know, they talk about unnecessary other things that was not relevant.
Yeah.
And because I think because of the collective voice, some people may not agree to it, but they're using social media as a tool and a platform to, you know, completely diverge that important and unnecessarily, you know, trying to tell, you know, problems that are necessarily not. So I think social media has somewhat blurred that line between, you know,
Yeah.
a freedom of speech a person can have, and you know,
Mm.
the right to call out a person and to be held accountable. These are
Yeah.
two things that that are two things as cancel culture talks about, and it's a very good principles. Nothing is wrong in this,
Yep.
but I think they end up going to a certain level where these two, the reasons, you know, completely get overshadowed over the hatred that they're showing. And I think
Mm.
that's a problem with cancel culture.
Exactly. So now, how does social media, shape who gets cancelled and who doesn't get cancelled?
I mean, I think I literally spoke about, social media playing a big role in about how, you know, a lot of important conversations then do not get heard, unfortunately. And it
Mm.
is, you know, it is true. Social media is, you know, the fuel, the energy behind the whole cancel culture thing. And I
Yep.
feel like, so I think social media is probably the whole, you know, I think the word cancel culture itself, I don't know if the word existed before, or you know, it existed, you know, in social media
Mm.
onwards. I'm not very sure, but the word cancel culture, I've heard that on social media more than anywhere else, and
Exactly.
actually. So, and I think because social media is such a wide network, I think, you
Mm.
know, any small thing that a person can tell, because there are so many people, and like I said,
Mm.
algorithm, you know, will end up picking out, you know, the negative comments, and you know, the it's very unfortunate that it's very psychological that, you know, uh, something negative is spoken, that's more eye gripping, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have seen that not just in social media, we've seen that in newspaper and publication and magazines as well.
Mm.
Their way of writing the title itself, right? Like those I think it's very eye catching.
Yeah.
I think because of that, I think social media, because of having a large voice, has so many people who will come and just it's bombarded with, you know, negative comments. And
Mm.
it's very sad to sometimes see, you know, some people, you know, talking like that, and sometimes it's irrelevant, you know. Sometimes it may be something that, you know, the person might have done in the past,
Yeah.
and but the person will bring that and talk about it. Now the thing about, you know, that I've heard this conversation in social media multiple times is being held accountable. You know,
Mm.
that is that one word. Now social media, you know, but I don't know how much, you know, you can't really figure out and tell who is, you know, accountable for what they say. You know, you really don't know if someone has actually changed as a person. It's very hard to tell, because we have seen so many situations where people have said something, they have gotten really harsh, you know, they've gotten cancelled for it. But you
Yeah.
know, once things, you know, the heat slows down a little bit, where they can, you know, start build their career again, we have seen a lot of people end up making those mistakes again as well, not just
Mm.
celebrities in general, you know, with the people that we meet also. We have seen that happen, right? You know,
Yeah.
we have seen a certain person do the same mistake again and again. I think that's where it's the problem, you know, that
Exactly.
you know, someone does not take accountability for their actions, and they don't really see, you know, the wrong or the mistake in it. And I think that's what cancel culture event, you know, actually came for. And if you see, nothing is my question always, you know, is, if the person who's willing to, you know, who's there on social media going there and canceling someone, you know, because
Mm.
social media is such a open platform, right? It's just them and the phone, and they can go and tell whatever they want openly. My one question is like, will that person, when they meet that person in real life, will they, you know, tell the same things to them in real life? is, that
I,
is something
I
I.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to say it. It all depends on the person. Like, if the person is a very outspoken type of guy or lady, like, they would say things to your face. But then again, if they were going to say things to the person's face, they would not sit behind a screen and, text or tweet or any of that.
Hmm. Because we are seeing it, they go the other way around as well, right? Like someone who
Yeah,
goes and attacks a celebrity like that, that person itself has gotten, criticism and hated and everything. And
exactly.
social media, because it's all words and videos, you can openly explain yourself in such detail. I think,
Exactly.
even if you even if you can tell exactly why you have a problem with this person. In
Mm,
real life, when you meet that person, I don't know how confidently someone will tell all or everything that they want to tell on phone, on social media. And
exactly.
I think so, and that's the thing. Relate a lot of people who, who don't who feel like they can't tell in real life. They don't feel like they're brave enough to tell in real life. They feel like, their voice, social media ends up becoming a voice for such people. And it's a good
Mm,
thing, nothing is wrong in it. I
yeah.
think social media has been a blessing for, a lot of people who are socially, who find it awkward to express themselves, what they want. But
Mm,
and that's then it's their choice and freedom for it. But that freedom also, that freedom that a person gives, it can go to some level of extremism that,
yeah.
one, we can't really tell that person to stop and, say don't do this, don't do that. You can't really, like, how to put it, like, control a person so much as well.
Yeah.
That level of freedom is given. I think the social media has that level of freedom that it has given is the main reason why, the whole cancel culture itself has been something that has been created. And the lot of times, a lot of people, who they've called out a lot of people and for completely valid reasons. But
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes it's just, I think it really goes beyond, what I really would have even thought. Because it might be for some certain other reason, but they have finally figured out that one thing they can pinpoint and talk about that person, and they will try to, just completely drag that person, around in social media through that one comment they
Exactly.
make.
Exactly. And I also feel like, people getting cancelled has become more easier ever since social media existed. Because all
Yeah.
it takes is just a simple tweet, a simple comment, a simple post. It can be
Mhm.
like a very simple post which has a different meaning. But then, there are certain sects of people who do take it a negative way. And once they start, oh gosh, it's like a whole battle between good and evil, that kind of
Mhm.
way. And most probably, like, the person who posted it did not have the intention of it to, blow up so much into, two sects
Mhm.
of the internet. But then again, he or she is caught up in the entire thing, and
Mhm.
eventually the person does get cancelled,
Mhm.
which is
And
actually, yeah.
no, no. So no, my thing in this whole thing is, like, okay, fine. There's nothing wrong in you picking out and telling a person, and a lot
Mm,
of times it's been pretty, it's been very accurate. That person
yeah.
who's got cancelled, the mistake they've made is, a valid reason to be pointed out.
Yeah.
But I feel like, but I think it's the outcome after that that becomes very, that is more difficult. And
Hmm.
I think that is the major problem. And I think it's that freedom that social media has, it's completely fair. Because if you're going to, if you're going to completely control and tell, you can't say this, you can't say that,
Hmm.
for certain things it might be benefited, but overall in the bigger picture it might be, it will be very difficult when you be this, particular, and you this much level of restrictions. In certain way it can help, but in the bigger picture, when someone else wants to voice out and talk about something else, and I think
Yeah.
these kind of restrictions can block those voices as well. So I
Yeah.
think, which is why the whole topic of freedom of speech is there, right? Because it's
Mm,
hypocritical of you saying, I don't agree with you, so you shouldn't talk. That is completely unfair. So when you're going to tell what you feel is right, and someone will try stopping you from talking, you're going to complain about it.
mm.
And I think it's hypocritical that they end up doing the same thing. So I think it's completely fair, the freedom that social media has given, but it's also, you can't, it's very unpredictable what it's, what people can end up saying.
Exactly. Speaking of outcomes, now, can someone truly, come back after being cancelled?
uh It's yes and no. I mean, I have seen. I mean, we have seen a lot of celebrities who have come back, come out of it. Who
Mm.
have restarted their lives. But then we've also seen celebrities, people whose life has completely gone down the road,
Yeah.
and it is very, and it's very it's very unfortunate what happens. And the
Mm.
thing is, I feel like for some people, the reason they can get cancelled, I feel like the reason is so the evidence is so beyond sometimes. I think it's
Mm.
very, it's very difficult to even come back. Like I feel like a lot of celebrities that I myself, like I see them get, I've admired, I've been a big fan of. The moment they get cancelled, when you see
Mm.
that reason why they've gotten cancelled, a lot of times it's valid reasons, right? Now
Yep.
my thing is, after that, for me to see the work of that certain person ends up becoming difficult, because a lot of times you see that work irrespective of how good it is, that incident is what will come to people's mind.
Exactly.
And so I think with the world of social media, I think it's very, very difficult for someone to get out. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are some people who have, said comments. I think it's being held accountable. I think that
Yep.
conviction of being held accountable becomes very difficult on social media. So
Mm-hmm.
to convince this, the whole that's the whole genesis of cancel culture is being held accountable. Now, for what
Exactly.
mistake you've done, I think convincing the world that you're being held accountable, that you have understood the mistake you've made, and that you've overall evolved as a person. I think
Mm.
convincing that to a couple of people is easy, but then convincing that to a person is very easy, but
Yeah.
convincing that to millions of people who don't know you personally at all, I think
Exactly.
that's very difficult. So that
Exactly.
conviction is where it gets difficult, a lot of times. And I think lot we have seen some celebrities who have be we had it's very hard to, because we don't know the celebrities in person. It's impossible to to just 100% say the person has been held accountable, the person has actually
Mm.
understood the mistake, then they moved on or not. It's very hard to say, because we don't know the people. We
Exactly.
don't know the celebrities in real life. That is the reason why a lot of audience itself find it very difficult to to see if the person is being held accountable, if the person has actually understood the mistakes or not, because they
Mm.
don't know the person, so they just don't they are not very sure about it. That is why,
Exactly.
in the future, with all the sorts of with any future work that the certain person does, I think it's very unfortunate that no matter how good the work is, the first thing that comes to people's mind is what they have done. And the
Mm.
thing is, social media reminds them of it. And that's a social media is that place where whatever they've said, it's like it's recorded. It's like a proof that's existing, that cannot be erased at all. So
Yeah.
they and that's the thing about Twitter also, right? Like something a person will say, and then and 5 years later they'll bring back that tweet that person has said, because the tweet has is there as a proof of the tweet that they have said. so
Exactly.
and I and I think social media keeps reminding everyone as well at the same time for what the person has done. So I
Mm.
think that's why it's because of social media, the conviction is very difficult for a person to to tell the audience that they have learned from their mistake. I think
Yeah.
that's where it's difficult. So if you're asking me, can someone get out of it? Uh, can someone overcome the cancel? Them being cancelled? It's
Mm.
yes, but it's beyond difficult, is what I feel.
Yeah. And with that said, that officially brings us to the end of today's show. A huge thank you to Johan for joining today's show.
Yeah, glad to be back. It's good. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since we did this.
Yeah.
So remember, guys, we air on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. That's it. If you guys want to contribute our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we are doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. And a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this edition of the Reality Bang, your weekly dose of youth power, brought to you by FIBA Online. This is RJ Johan. Hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Monday. God bless you.